I want to start painting. Um, so I have been in the object view for most of this with the drop downs here that show different subdivision layers. We have looked a bit at sculpt layers, creating new sculpt layers, although I've taken those out. I don't think I need any of those. I've got a sculpt I like, but I might again, create new sculpt layers and make variations on this figure so that I have different versions of this alien or different aliens that have a basic similarities. But I'm not going to. I can actually delete these. Uh, this is the sculpt layers. This is paint layers. And just like paint layers, I can create sculpt layers. I can create new paint layers, and I'm called this one base. So I don't want to rely on this material. I can change these materials, by the way, but I'm not going to show that. I don't want anything to be based on this material. I don't want to trust this material. I want my paint layers to all be separate from this. So I'm going to paint this all a kind of off white or gray. So I've got this new paint layer. I'm in my paint tools here. Here's a paintbrush. It's too big. I can paint this guy, but maybe I'll miss a little bit. The best thing to do is to go into the UVs and maps and flatten to UV space, and then I can paint this stuff. And now I make this brush much bigger. So these are the UVs, and I can paint in the UVs. Notice that I have brush size and brush strength. So I've got this at 100% so that I'm not. It's not. It's totally opaque. It's not semi-transparent. So this just means I'm not missing any little tiny pieces, and so then I can go back to unflatten from UV space. And there you can see I've painted him a kind of matte gray, or it doesn't have to be. It's not particularly matte actually. Um, I can change its. I can change its specularity of things when I edit it, but well, I'm done. Anyway, this is my matte, my base color, and I didn't miss any bits because I was just painting these flat UV in the UV space. Okay, so that's my base color, but that's not the color he's going to be. This is like priming a primer. This is like painting a wall uh, with white or something before you paint it the color you've chosen, just so that what you're trying to do is make sure that there's enough paint layers that whatever was originally on the wall doesn't bleed through or show through in any way. So this is my primer layer. So I guess what I'll do is create a new layer, and I'll call this Aviator. That's the name of this character. Flesh tone. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be all one matte color, but it will be more or less that color. No person is all one color. So I'll just say okay to this. Notice that I'm saving these as targas. You have options. I think TIFF, one of these TIFFs is the default, but I chose Targa. I think it's better for games. Um, oh, and I could paint opacity, or I could paint a bump map, a height map. But again, a diffuse is just the kind of what we think of as regular painting. And the size is chosen for me, but I can choose different powers of two. But I didn't bother changing that. And then here I can use stamps when I'm painting and whatnot, but let's just pick a kind of flesh tone for this alien. Now I think this alien doesn't have red blood. I think this alien has maybe copper-based blood. So I think it would be some kind of green, basic green. And I'll just say okay to that. Now, I'm going to bring the strength of this down just a little bit. Notice that I have more than a paintbrush. I have eyedroppers to select colors. I have an airbrush, which may paint differently. I have a paint erase, which seems to do absolutely nothing, huh? Oh, I'm still using airbrush. Once again, just like the sculpt tools, somehow it's tough somehow to click on these and have them do what you move to the new tool. Yeah. So I decide, maybe around the eyes I don't want this. I'll go back to my paintbrush, paint him some more. So I could do this on the I could flatten this too on the UVs. Just to get all of this painted in, because the flesh tone will not be all uniform. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have a base layer. And notice that my strength here is not 100%. So I just want to demonstrate something here. Let's go back to the UVs. So I'm going to paint in here at a low strength. So you can see there is a kind of transparency effect going on here. And I'm getting every element, every square inch, every pixel, but my base is showing through a little bit. Notice, you may note that I haven't raised my finger off of the mouse, so this is all one layer. And if I let go and come back, okay, I wondered. It doesn't seem to thicken that up. So there I've got my flesh tone layer. I've gone through with the erase tool and erased around the eyes. Now you may recall that I intend to build goggles for this guy, but I realized the goggles might be semi-transparent, so I may actually paint eyes on this guy. But as it is, I just erased the green. If the goggles are semi-transparent, I definitely don't want the green flesh tone to be over the eyeballs. If I want to see eyeballs, this is just suggestive rather than maybe definitive for the color of these guys' eyes. I've created a new layer called blush. So when human beings that all have red blood, the extremities and and some of the facial features are more red. The tip of the nose, the cheeks, the chin may have more red in them because the blood is closer to the surface. And so I assume this guy will have something similar. So I'm going to get a brighter green. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to get this, to select this green color. And, that doesn't seem to have, I don't seem to have a color I can edit now. I thought it would show up over there. Okay, I think I understand this a little bit better. So I'm going to create a new layer I'll call blush. And the color looks like it's already selected here, so maybe it's because I did use the eyedropper tool. But if I click on the eyedropper tool, I get the paint color, then I can adjust it here. So I'm in blush, and so I just want to choose a little bit different green, slightly more greenish green. And maybe it's a good time to turn on mirroring here. And Now, this guy generally doesn't have cheeks. You know, it doesn't really have like fat cheeks like human beings do. But I want to maybe pull up the strength here just a little bit. I might look at my fall off of my brush and make it a little bit bigger. And let's make it real powerful and see if I'm actually painting anything. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm painting just a slightly greener green. I'm undoing. Okay, and then I'll paint this in. Oh, that's too strong. Too strong. And maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. So, like these are, I don't know what these, you know, this organ might be, but I assume that it has some kind of, maybe it's part of his breathing, like your nose, a human nose is. And maybe I'll bring this way down and do kind of edges. And maybe a different fall off might be helpful. Yeah. So I'm just softening the edges with a much lower strength. And then this, I think, would be also some kind of blush here and along the jaw. So I'm just creating a kind of highlights of this green. And I feel like I've got, you know, it's too heavy already a little bit, but I don't have to go back and undo things and lower the strength of the brush. Let's get the bottom of his chin too. Here we go. I can lower the whole influence here, just like we can with sculpt layers. So if I bring it all the way down to 0, it's none. I can pull it up a bit. So yeah, so we just begin to see some of that effect. And I think on the forehead we would see some of this. I'll make this much bigger. Around the eyes, I believe we would see some of this kind of blush. So basically, you know, most of the places I would see redder areas, more ruddy areas on a human being. I think this alien would have. I'll leave it off the bridge of the nose here because he doesn't really have a nose. So maybe this is more like bone underneath there. Maybe it's not as. It doesn't have blood closer to the surface particularly, but around the eyes I think it would. And around this breathing apparatus or breathing element here. And then right down the middle of the throat in humans would be a kind of redder area. No matter what skin tone a human is, we see bits of this, but obviously the paler people have more of this showing, right? So, and then next thing I'm going to do is come in here, maybe not the next, because I'll continue with this for a bit. I do think maybe on the shoulder here, just a little bit. He has a little more blush response, and probably on the somewhere the back of the neck a little bit. We'll put a kind of intense version of that right here at the back of the ears. Oh, not that he has ears. But whatever these knobs are, he has maybe a more intense version of this green. So it's a subtle effect, but one that I think is, you know, building up layers is, it's important not to overpower with any particular one. You can see it on his throat here a little bit, and on his face a little bit. And I think that's good enough. That's his blush. So the next thing I want to do is, so some of this structure might be slightly different colors. So I'm going to create a new layer. I think there's a kind of yellow element with maybe a little red in here. Maybe, I don't know if these are wounds or what these are. So I'm going to find, I'm going to call this waffling, because he has this kind of waffle pattern on his certain places on his skin. And I'll bring yellow into this with maybe a bit of orange, huh? And we'll make the strength of this layer 100% and see what we think here. Yeah, this seems too big. Oh, and I'm mirroring, so I don't want to do that. Turn that off for now, because this stuff's not mirrored. So one of the things, and I think it's really kind of important that we sculpt first, because some structure may need painting, and you don't know where that is until you've sculpted it in. I won't make you watch me do this here. So I've painted a top layer of this color on the waffling layer of my paint, and I used two different strengths. So like where this structure is the most pronounced, I use a high strength, and where it tapers out into the skin, I used a lower strength. And you can see it's on the back of the neck, it's on the back here between the shoulder blades, it's on the kind of upper breastplate, or where the collarbone might be, and it's most pronounced right here on the chest. And I think that's all the waffling I did. There's some up here. I'll add a little bit onto the jaw here, but I want to show, I'll show it in a sec, I want to show that I can also add new colors to this and new effects. So let me finish with a bit on the jaw here. Okay, I added some to the jaw. I used the lightest touch here on the jaw. Other things are more influencing that coloring, I think, on his face. But now I just want to point out that I don't have to do one color per paint layer, right? So I think this might also have some red in it, and maybe a dark red, and excuse me, and structurally it might be kind of on the sides, because this stuff does stand up from the mesh. So I'm going to paint some of this in, like so. I'll do a bit of it before I let's pull this up a little bit. Is this, maybe that's a little much. Is this a little tedious? I will say you have to think of it as fun. If this isn't fun, don't do it. But if this isn't fun, maybe consider doing something else with your life. Oh, that is way too much. I'm just going to undo this. This is the nerdy part of art, is this tedious fiddling about with ideas, and but also with this needs to come up. Not just ideas, but also with maybe that's much nicer fall off there. Also, it shows that it's too strong. So this is the fun part. If this isn't fun, there are other things you could do. Maybe not painting stuff is maybe not your thing. So I've painted this red layer. Red, it's all part of waffling, but I've painted some red in this waffling, and you can see the difference here and on the sides, and on the back I haven't done it. I'm about to do it, so you can see the difference. I'm still not going to be done with this. I'll show you my next step. So I've got all this kind of gold and red, yellow and red waffling done. I didn't really add any red to the face waffling. Maybe I can just put a little bit in there. Like I say, the face has other things affecting its coloration, in my opinion, right? So I've got it everywhere that there's waffling, but I'm not going to be done yet. Let me think about some of the other things I'm going to paint. But here's my airbrush, and I can choose a. I'll go. In fact, let's get this green. Let's see here, eyedropper. Let's get this green, and then go to my airbrush, and okay, I don't know how to drop it in there. I'm just going to pick a kind of greenish, maybe slightly brighter than his skin, and I got the airbrush, so I'm going to just really lightly go over this. Let's do it real heavy so we can be sure we're actually painting. Yeah, okay. There we go. So I'm going to really lightly just go over this. And think of that as kind of a blending. The red and the yellow, I can kind of paint over a little bit so they don't stand out quite the same. Very subtle, maybe a little too subtle. Oh, it's because it's 0 strength. Okay. There we go. So that doesn't look so painted, is the idea. I'm going to undo this, though. I won't make you watch my fiddling about. Okay, so the last, I won't, I think I'm kind of getting close to the end of the tutorial. I'm going to keep painting though, and let's just look at some of the things I'm going to paint. So these gills, I've got kind of gills or something here, and so they really need to be set aside at their own color. I have some scars here, and maybe they will benefit from being, slightly darker or some color in there. I noticed a kind of band around the back of his head that's never got painted quite green enough. So I might go back and revisit the UV paint I did. I'm going to have, I imagine I will have 5 or 6 layers of paint, maybe more. But I don't think I need to keep on going with the tutorial.